Alright, so another thing I wanted to get to is this front bracket. You can see it's just rusting up here and it's also rusting around the frame. Once I got this front bracket out, it was kind of clear how much damage was done underneath of this. And unfortunately, just like everything on this tractor, it turns out to be a bigger thing. So I was kind of contemplating here how much I wanted to peel this back, how much of Pandora's box I wanted to open. And I wasn't really looking forward to it, but I went ahead and made the decision, might as well fix it now than try to chase it later. So now the moment of truth, can I lift the cab while the bucket is up? Answer, thank God, is yes. So I started with one of those paint removal discs for a grinder. They're kind of like a hard sponge. That worked pretty well, except they get eaten up pretty quickly if you get into these hard corners. It almost immediately disintegrates it. So then I switched to one of these lap sanding discs, and because this is on such thick metal, I'm not really worried about going too deep. And after that, I switched to a wire brush to try to get into any of the little finicky corners. This sucks. So for some of these stubborn areas, I decided I was going to go ahead and try to use some of this Jas paint remover. And then kind of as a new experiment, I'm going to go ahead and try to pressure wash it away instead of trying to scrape it up and see if that works. Because I was going out of town for the weekend, I wanted to at least coat this before I left. That way it wouldn't rust out badly while I was gone. So I ended up using a thick filler primer here, and that's really going to allow me to build up some of these divots or some of those deep rust spots. Then I'm going to come back and wet sand it and probably apply a few more coats. Alright, since I'm going out of town for a few days, I don't want to leave the cab up, I don't want to leave the hydraulic cylinders exposed. I want to set everything back in, but this is, sensitive paint, so I'm just going to put some cardboard block there to help with. Okay, this has a little latch on it that helps you do it by yourself. 2 weeks later. I thought it was a good idea while I was doing this front part to also hit the inside here. So I basically broke loose any of the chunks of paint, then gave it a light sand to help the paint stick, and then proceeded to do a crappy job painting over these rust spots. But this is just about protecting this and preventing the rust from growing further. Looks like it might rain here, which would be a super bummer because I'll have to stop whatever I'm doing. I'm trying to get everything done today as far as like painting the stuff. Get new primer on it, get the top coat on it, and then get clear coat on it. So hopefully I can still do that. Hopefully it won't rain. So one thing that you might have noticed is some of these parts I'm stripping all the way to bare metal, and others I'm leaving most of the original paint. And the reason why is if it's not too damaged and not too rusty, the original paint is going to be much harder than anything I can do because it's powder coated. So I'm trying to preserve most of that as the original base layer and then paint on top of it to make sure I have the strongest possible barrier without having to re-powder coat the entire part. So this was kind of an experiment here. I was really aggressively filling these deep gouges and scratches with a ton of filler primer, knowing that I'd have to come back and wet sand it pretty aggressively to remove the excess paint. And I did a pretty decent job filling in these scratches. I could definitely hit it with more paint, but I just don't care. It's going to be way better than it was. Just want to get some of these bigger bumps of paint out of here. Tell you how much sanding is one of my least favorite things. I think that's good enough for paint. Clean it up first, but now this one I went pretty aggressive on, so it has a huge scratch down the center. That helped fill in a bunch, and it had chips all over the place. This is actually really helping. What I realized I was missing is I need something that's going to be a solid flat surface. So when I'm using your hands, that kind of pushes the sandpaper into those grooves and kind of sands everything, I guess probably a little more evenly than this is cutting the edges of it away and leaving the paint in the center, which, man, that huge deep scratch is gone. So I'm going to go back and do the other piece too. After about a week of drying, it was time to reassemble everything. You may have noticed when I pulled the bolts out, they were pretty corroded. So I replaced everything with brand new bolts, washers, and lock washers that are corrosion resistant. One of our helper cats.
He didn't want to come out, he just wanted up. Hi, buddy. Yeah, what is all that crazy stuff?
So when I'm lining these up, I'm just trying to get this line over here pretty much parallel. Seems like that's where it wants to naturally sit. That's good. Same thing for this one. So these long side seals were still in pretty good condition, so I just cleaned them up and armoralled them and put them back. Now these front ones were completely destroyed, so I went ahead and replaced those. Now the way Caterpillar sells those is they're actually the same exact trim that you use around the windows, so I bought enough to do the window and these lower parts. You do, however, have to cut them to size yourself. Overall, I'm really happy with the way all of this turned out. It looks great, but more importantly, it's protected for years to come. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and please consider subscribing.
I have quickly become the least interesting thing here. Help. Oh, come here, old man. 17 years old. Yes, you're very curious. Yes, you are. Oh, I know you are. Okay. Yes.